3 and 2 and 1, and we are live. Welcome to the live stream show. And today we are talking about how you can build an engaged community on video. And lately, and maybe even sort of longer than lately, people have been talking more and more about building community rather than focusing on building a huge, large audience. And that one of the secrets to your success as a business person, or if you're an online course creator, or if you're any kind of online entrepreneur, building a community of people who not only engage with you, but are engaging with each other and are supporting each other is the way to go. Because of course, if you have, whatever you're doing, whatever transformation or problem you're solving with the work that you do, if you've got a group of people, a core group who are the true believers, the one who have actually gone through this transformation and they're still hanging around with each other. And not only that, they're starting to bring their friends. Well, this is when you win the game. So I really want to go deep on this, and I've invited Ben Toalson onto the live stream show today to help us talk about this. Ben is the video marketing creator for a platform called Podia. And Podia is kind of this all-in-one solution. If you're wanting to do an online course, if you wanted to build an online community, if you want to sell, with webinars and downloads or anything else, like all these things in one simple platform, Podia is the place to do it. And Ben is the guy, he's the hired hand who is doing things for them around their video marketing and around helping them build their community. And that is how we met, was inside this new, very engaged community that Podia has built. So I'm really excited about this episode. Want to take a deep dive. Don't touch that dial. Stay tuned and let's start the show. Recorded live in Boston, Massachusetts, this is the Livestream Show. In a world full of underexposed entrepreneurs, the Livestream Show is your gateway to a global community of live stream pioneers who dare to go live and create something special and unexpected, which could only happen because it was live. I'm your host, Brad Powell. Let's get on with the show. All right. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Brad, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, really great to have you here and really great to have this conversation. And by way of getting started, can you just talk a little bit? I'd always like to hear these stories from someone who is a videographer, who's been doing video for some time. And the things that I've seen from your work are very creative, by the way, like really fun and really out of the box kind of video content that you're creating. How did you fall into video? And you can even take us right up to the present of, and then landing yourself working with Podia.
It's such a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. I actually was working in the church for a long time. And one of the things about working in church is, you have a role, you have a job, but then you also kind of get pulled into other things. And me being a creative person, I was always interested in dabbling in anything creative. So I led the music and that was my primary job, but I was also interested in web design. I was interested in graphic design and eventually found my way into messing around with video a little bit. And so it was for a new church. I was the music pastor, and we had it was kind of a community event where we were going to put on a flag football tournament between the adults and the youth students. And I wanted to make a promotional video at the time. I don't know if you remember these things, but it was called a flip cam. And it was about the size of a cell phone, and it had a USB stick that would flip out of it. You could record, I think the one that I had was 720p, so kind of lower quality video. and then you could plug it into your computer and import the videos directly without having to use a separate card or anything like that. I loved it. It was kind of my introduction into being able to easily capture video and turn it into something creative. So I made this promotional video, had a lot of fun with it, and then was like, I think I could do more of this. And so over time, I just kind of messed around with it a little bit more until I got to the point where I thought, I could actually maybe make some money at this, do some work for businesses, and so I started a video production company and did a lot of promotional videos, did some video content marketing, and really fell in love with it. And this whole time, as I was kind of growing in my skills, I was also following vloggers on YouTube and seeing it was really kind of a time of blossoming for YouTube content in general. And so I kind of fell in love with that as well and thought, I'd like to share some of what I'm doing creatively because, I can only be so creative doing things for an AC company that hires me to do a promotional video. I did come up with some interesting ideas for them, uh, but I thought I want a place where I can experiment with video and try creative things out and work on filmmaking and that kind of thing. And so YouTube was really a way that I started to explore my creativity and so about it was 2.5 years ago, I started imagining for myself this position at a company that served creators, and I loved this idea of being able to produce work in support of people like me, creators who are just trying to share their knowledge, trying to share their insights, trying to grow an audience, trying to grow a community. And I thought it would be so cool if there was a company serving those kind of people and I could make videos for them, educational content. I could help tell their stories. I could make things that would encourage and motivate them, that would make them smile and laugh. That would be a dream. And I went to a conference, and the company that was putting on the conference at the time uh, was one of those companies that serves creators. And I happened to have a mutual friend with the CMO at that company. And so I said, "Hey, can I get a meeting with this person?" Uh, and they said, "Sure." And so I got to sit down and kind of pitch what I had envisioned for this position to the CMO. And they were kind of interested and had questions, but ultimately it was kind of like, well, yeah, we'll keep in touch. And there wasn't really any follow-up after that. Unbeknownst to me, at that same conference, the CMO of another company called Podia was in attendance and was having a conversation with somebody else there at that conference about creating a position at Podia doing what I now do. A few months after that conference, they posted that position, and I got in touch with my friend who worked at Podia, Matt Ragland, and said, "Hey, this is kind of exactly what I'm looking for. Should I apply for it?" And he said, "Yeah, yeah, you should." And so I applied. I got through a couple of rounds of interviews and then ultimately was able to get the job. And so here I am.
That's so great. I mean, you really created like in your mind the job that you now have. That's quite a good manifesting that you did. That's so cool. Yeah, and I'm wondering, like, okay, so you mentioned a lot of things in terms of the kinds of things that you were thinking of wanting to be able to do for creators and really play a very supportive role for anyone who is particularly looking to become a professional creator, or anyone who has a business who is using, online marketing and using the what they call content marketing now to showcase and or reach a new audience. And in the case of especially the recent development at Podio with this new community feature that they have, and in fact now a creator community that's evolved there, how have you, like in just the time that you've been there, what have you seen as the progress that's being made just within your role and the things that you're doing?
Yeah, so the idea for a creator community went kind of hand in hand, I think, at Podia, and the conversations we were having went hand in hand with the idea of wanting to make it possible for creators to grow their own communities. I think we were definitely seeing that as a growing need, a growing desire among creators, that they were rethinking the idea of audience and really starting to lean into this idea of having a community. And so from the beginning of those conversations, I was super excited. Before I worked for Podia for many years, I was a part of an online community, and we actually, the person who ran the community actually built a custom chat room with it was very similar to Slack. I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but it had different channels, and so you could have real-time conversations and that kind of thing. And there was a podcast component to that. So every week we got to create this content live with people who were in the community, listening, asking questions, sharing their thoughts, and then that conversation just continued. And the thing that I always loved about the idea of community was that sense of having a conversation, and the conversation being able to continue, after the piece of content comes out, or after the big event, or whatever it is. And so I was very excited when we started moving in that direction with Podia. And as far as my approach to doing video content, one of the things that I was most excited about was the capacity for community to be kind of like a source of inspiration for video content. One of my favorite things to do is to create content based on real questions, real struggles, and instead of having kind of this conceptual idea of, oh, I know people struggle with this, there's a real person in the community asking a specific question that I can create a piece of content in response to, that not only helps them but helps anybody else who also has that question. So I think it's really, really powerful in that way.
Yeah, anytime that you've got a group of people who are talking back and forth, asking questions, and then even before you or any moderator could get in there, other people are responding to those questions. And so you have this real-time thing going on that lasts for an extended period. And very much like, as you say, when you're looking for content to create to, the world at large, things that you want to reach, new people and people who aren't yet aware of you, this is just such a rich well of material to draw upon, because it's absolutely what people are thinking about and struggling with and talking about and helping each other with. And the other thing that I love about this is that you've got this exchange happening where people are genuinely helping each other out. And, for myself, in the work that I've done in the past and what I continue to do, where I feel like the best things are happening is when you're actually working with groups of people, whether they're in an online community or whether you're doing a group program or you're facilitating some kind of group experience with the people who you're working with. Something really nice happens when you have that engagement of the participants with one another. And this is one part that I think is a big trick for marketers to be thinking about, is like, how can you create that for people so that, what's happening is that you've got this group of people who are really coming in, and part of what they're getting is they're part of a group that's helping each other out, and they're feeling valued because they can contribute to that.
Yeah, and facilitating that kind of interaction was one of the first things we did when we launched the community. I was a part of a project with the marketing team and the content team, and we actually produced a 5-lesson course specifically designed to help people build out their Podia sales page. And uh, and it was only specific to Podia in that they were using that tool because they were Podia creators. But these principles, what kinds of things should you put on the page? How do you lay out your sales page? What elements do you need to make sure to include, in what order? Those kinds of things um, are really valuable. And and so the content team wrote this course, and I was able to take that and turn it into a script and make video lessons out of it. And so immediately we had something to offer. And at the end of each lesson, we encouraged the participants to communicate with one another and said, okay, now share what you're working on and offer feedback on uh, what other folks share, and try to share ideas and struggles and that kind of thing. And it ended up being a really neat experience. And at the very end of it, the last lesson, they were given a chance to share their finished sales page. And it was so cool to see everybody share something they felt proud of and they felt confident about. And at the same time, see all of the encouragement and people just saying, "Hey, that looks amazing, great job," and that kind of spirit really set the tone, I think, for the kind of conversations we continue to have in the Podia creator community.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're dealing with, for every person there, they're really doing something new. I mean, yes, one of the things that they're doing that's new is building the sales page, but the other thing that doing that's new is actually working on this platform that they're just still learning how to use. And when you can see other examples, like you'll see people doing something that you've never thought of, or you go, oh, that's so cool, I could adapt, that little part into my thing. I mean, it's just so helpful to have this larger bunch of examples, and it makes, in this case, an online course so much richer than a single instructor could ever do on their own.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was I was really impressed by a lot of the pages that people have shared in the community. There's one creator who said, "Hey, here are some tips," just like offered it without any prompt. Here's some tips for how you can make your Podia site stand out, and had a bunch of different ideas and shared some kind of workarounds and stuff like that. And it was so neat. And it was stuff that even I was like, oh wow, I need to do that. I need to steal those ideas. Um, it's so great. And that's one of the things I love about what community does for people, I think, is it puts them in a posture of wanting to be generous because they realize the value of being generous in an environment like that and how that comes back to you. And so I love that we get to see that all the time.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's a movement into what is now being called cohort-based learning. And one of my first experiences with that was taking a program on Seth Godin's Akimbo platform, which was, the course I took was their podcasting fellowship. And so the environment was, I don't know, there were probably 100 people in the program or so. It was a little hard to tell how many, and we were all put into a small group of maybe 20 or so. And these were the people that you were going to go through the course with. And so every day we got some little lesson. It was like 5 minutes of something and then a little assignment to do. But the assignment wasn't just to do your thing. It was to then go and see what other people have done and give feedback. Like say, just respond to the work of everyone else. So every single day, every single person who was active was giving and receiving all of this stuff. And it made for a really deep, enriching experience, as well as it actually produced the result in that most of the people in the course, in this case, they produced a brand new podcast and launched it within the time of the program. And I was like totally impressed by, oh my gosh, look at all these people. I mean, they're doing really creative things. Like, it was such a cool thing to be a part of, and it felt really good. And the only downside of that particular setup was there is no community. Like, there was no thing to go and say, okay, I want to hang out with these people for longer, which is sort of the sad news. So this is where what I see Podia doing and what I see it providing for a lot of content creators and a lot of online business people is that it's doing both these things. Like, you're enabling the ability to have learning experience for any of the people who you're now working with, as well as this long-term relationship building that just lasts for as long as people are willing to hang in with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we have events, we have different things kind of going on. The community launch obviously was like our very first big event, and that's where you and I met. We got to do a video chat in I think it's called Wonder,
Mm-hmm.
the app that we used, and so it was akin to being in like the lobby of of where a conference is, and you're like walking up to tables and meeting different people. And so, a lot of cool stuff is happening inside the community. But we get a lot of mileage out of doing these other event sort of things. And I think what that does is it does kind of provide it creates kind of a solidifying effect to the relationships that people are developing with one another. They start conversations, and then there's this event where maybe they get to talk face to face, or we are doing a thing now where we're encouraging people to nominate their favorite creators, and it's kind of this thing of really trying to foster support and encouragement among creators. And so we've got people saying these are the 5 people I picked, and here's why. And so I think those kind of big events, those mile markers, kind of make the stretches in between even richer, and allow for that kind of long-term relationship to form.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to take a moment, acknowledge Colleen is here, and she says, love this. So if you're here and you're listening to this conversation, what we're talking about today is how to build community on video. That's the main topic. And if you've got questions or comments about anything that we're talking about, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we will get to you, bring them up on screen here. And yeah, so the whole idea is to have a conversation. We're community building in the moment. One of the things that I've noticed that you are really spearheading is the YouTube channel for Podia. And you've talked a little bit about where you're getting your content ideas from in terms of some of the content that goes on over there, but you're actually doing pretty well. I mean, the YouTube channel is growing substantially. I think it's got well over 20-some thousand subscribers now. And so talk a little bit about your approach, because YouTube is a whole nother kind of environment. And yes, you can do a kind of community there. Lots of YouTube creators are talking all the time about, yes, we've got a real community. So how are you looking at that? And particularly in how it sort of folds into the whole idea of building community for Podia.
Yeah, so I've always had the intention, as I took on the YouTube channel, of allowing that to be sort of its own kind of community. And one of the things that one of the pieces I think that is missing from our approach currently is that I don't really have a live component yet. I'm still focused a lot on creating content, and so the community ends up happening um, in the comments. It happens on our other socials where we link back to YouTube, and it also now happens in the Podia creator community. Um, and so those things are really undergirding um, what I would say is the current YouTube community. But we have there are people who will comment every time we publish a video. Anytime I do something kind of creative and fun, there's always somebody who says, "Oh, I'm so glad you did that. That was so much fun." Um, and so there's definitely this sense of like we have people, and I know that seems kind of like there are 20,000 subscribers. How how uh how do you not think of that as like a community? But a subscriber is not necessarily what you would think of as a community member. um a community member, and this is not necessarily like a formal membership, but somebody who you would consider a part of your community is somebody who shows up consistently and cares about the things that you care about and is a part of the conversation. And so anytime I have an opportunity to foster that um, on YouTube, I try to take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've seen in a couple of, well, more than a couple, but one of the more outstanding examples of doing this kind of video content creation is the video hosting platform called Wistia, which happens to be based right here in Boston area. And I've known them for a long time, since they were really tiny. And they've done, very early on. I mean, when they started, the two founders, even though they're a video hosting company, I don't think they actually knew anything about how to make video. But they recognized really early that in order for their customers to be successful in hosting video, they had to also be good at making video. And so they have created a huge library of content all around best practices on how do you make good video marketing for your business. And very quickly, we're talking, 8, 10 years ago, they became kind of a big thought leader in the space. They hired, just like you, they hired a guy to come in who was their in-house videographer, and he's the one who's still there now making the core of their content. But what I saw happening from the community standpoint is just that they, like many people in the company, became faces in the videos, and they were really good at just bringing their whole personality and their whole, like, this is who we are kind of attitude to the kind of tutorials and other things that they were doing with their content. And interestingly, they don't have a YouTube channel. Like all this content, they chose to host it on their own website, and still it worked in terms of it, it has attracted and garnered a huge amount of attention. So really interesting approach to video content creation, which I think has really built a large and loyal following to the people who use their tools.
Yeah, and we don't have with YouTube, it's difficult to get a good sense of how many people are coming into the product directly from YouTube, unless they say explicitly, or they identify that in a survey or something like that. But because of our strategy, I think we're sowing these seeds of reciprocity. Our strategy is we want to provide educational content that helps creators, that is genuinely helpful, not just like, oh, let's try to come up with a listicle kind of thing. Like, no, let's try to walk them through actual steps and strategies. Let's try to bring some fresh, uh, in-depth research to these topics and ideas and present them in a way that creators can actually understand um, and use and actually take action. And that coupled with, we really want to be personable with our content and a little bit lighthearted, so it's not just all serious all the time. And so I've been encouraged a lot to kind of bring my personality into what we do with our video content. And I think the combination of those things, just being genuinely helpful and being um, bringing my personality to it and just being myself for the most part, uh, has attracted people to the brand and has served to speak well of what Podia is all about. Um, and there definitely, I've seen messages from people who said they watched a video and left a comment and said, I'm signing up because of this video. I'm signing up for your platform. One of them was this past uh, holiday season. I made a video that had nothing to do with creators or online business or anything like that. It was a music video. I wrote and composed a song called Last Minute Holiday Gift. And it was this silly kind of 90s R&B genre song. And it was just about this guy who had waited till the last minute to get their loved one a gift. Um, just silly, just our way of saying, hey, here's something fun and funny that you might appreciate. Hope you have a wonderful holiday, And somebody commented on that video and said, this video is the reason I'm signing up for a Podia account. Um, so you can't underestimate the power of, bringing personality and that lightheartedness and just, being approachable and not just being about serious business all the time.
Yeah, you're doing a really good job with that. I saw something you posted just recently that had to do with this promotion you're doing where people are nominating other creators, and you were playing multiple parts. There was musician Ben, and there was, I think, personal trainer Ben, and there was gamer Ben, and it was just
Yeah.
really, really funny and amusing. It was a really lighthearted way to basically be, you know, doing a promotion. And so it just cuts right through. Like anybody who sees that would just go, oh, okay, I like this. How can they not like it? So
Yeah. And
anyway,
well,
go
I was
ahead.
I was I was just gonna say, and that approach of um because I can make that video, I've made that video that just gives all of the bullet points and tells you all of the information. And that also has its place, in your marketing arsenal. Um but yeah, like I think what creators and people in general really respond to is feeling like they're known and understood, that the struggles they experience, that they're not alone in those things. And humor has been one of my favorite ways to kind of highlight that. And so I bring touches of that into a video like I made for this promotion. Um, and I feel like, kind of bringing it back to community, I think that's another part of what makes community so powerful, is that you end up finding that you find people who understand what you're going through, who can empathize with you, who maybe can help you work through your struggles. Uh, and it is kind of it can be a fun place to be too.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think that's actually a really good point to wrap up our conversation. We're right at the end of our time together. And so if someone is listening to this and they're super inspired and they're thinking, I want to go check out this Podia thing, I want to see what Ben's doing over there, what are the best ways to hook up?
Yeah, I would send you to Podia.com, and um, there's I can't remember the exact URL, but there's a tab that is it says resources. You can click on that, and that's got tons of helpful articles and videos and content that we've created to just help and support creators. And the great thing about that stuff is I think what ends up happening is you see through our content how useful Podia can be for your business too, if you're trying to grow an audience um, and maybe sell something online. Uh, so so yeah, go to our website, podia.com. You can also check out the YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Podia TV. And I'll make one more plug since we mentioned it a couple of times through the episode. Uh, it's something I'm super excited about that we're doing right now is this Podia Creator Fellowship, and it's not just for Podia creators; it's open to everyone. Um, we're doing it a little bit different. We've done a fellowship where we awarded somebody based on them submitting an application. Now we're doing it to where we're going to award a creator at least $1,000 who is nominated by somebody else, and it's kind of our way of well, we want to help creators, but we also want to facilitate that sense of like, you're uh, you are encouraged. I think you're most encouraged and most affirmed by the people in your life who say, "Yeah, I believe in what you're doing as a creator enough that I want to nominate you for this thing." So that is at podia.com/creator-fellowship. And anybody, you don't have to be a creator to nominate somebody. So even if you're not a creator, if you have a creator in your life, you can nominate them, and you can actually nominate up to 5 people. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
All
I'm
right, I
very
love it.
excited
Well,
about it, if you can't tell.
yeah, it's super cool. It's a super great thing to be doing, and anything we can do sort of in support of the whole creator economy is a good idea. So cool. I'll make sure that all those links, podia.com and the podia.com slash, tell me again, the creator one,
Yeah, podia.com/creator-fellowship.
creator-fellowship. All right. So those links will be in the show notes, and I'll put them in the comments on the various places that this thing is existing on social media. And Ben, thanks so much for coming on today. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you again so much for having me. It was great talking with you.
Yeah. And so for the rest of you folks who are still listening, I just want to remind you that you can get access to the entire archive of the live stream show by just going to thelivestreamshow.com. All of the episodes are there, both in audio and in video. And if you like listening, is listening to a podcast is your favorite way to get all this kind of stuff, then you can subscribe on your favorite podcast app. So thanks again for joining, and we will see you next time around. So long.